Hello, and welcome to the Lucid Us podcast. My name is Shelley, and when I decided to begin this business, Lucid Us, I believed in this infinite, unbounded potential with each of us. And I would say that has not changed in the last 2+ years since this was born. I would say that I don't know what I'm doing, and that I don't know how to be the expression that I say I believe in, and that some part of me does believe in, and that I'm stuck, very stuck. And this podcast today, I have no idea. And I've never done that before. And I feel stupid. I feel silly. And I could go into that, but I don't feel like there's a need to. Why I chose to do it is it felt like a thing to do. Oftentimes when I'm stuck, the only thing I can think of is to try something I haven't done. So I've done podcasts before where I planned out every word and I wrote it and wrote it and wrote it and then read it. It's quite beautiful. I've had podcasts where I knew what I was going to talk about, even though I didn't know what I was going to say. And, some of those turned out beautifully. This one, don't know what I'm going to say. Don't know what I'm going to talk about. Don't know why I'm doing it. And it came from this morning as I was thinking about was listening to Wayne Dyer eating brownies. So this morning, not feeling super great, not going super well, or not going how I'd like it to go. I haven't showered, haven't dressed, haven't done anything. I was eating brownies, listening to Wayne Dyer. And as he was talking about being in service, to something greater than ourselves, being in service to our soul, I became very frustrated inside because when I created Lucid Us, when this whole idea came to me, which really started with the app, which nothing has happened there, which is surprising. And the app came about because part of my mental health, part of my struggle with my thinking patterns was me coming up with affirmations. The affirmations that helped me stop old patterns, cyclical patterns of thoughts that were harmful to me and others. And so I would think of a saying would come to me and I would write it down. And then I would make a really beautiful, I would write the affirmation on a big piece of paper and then draw all around it and make it a very beautiful thing to look at and put it on my wall. And for a solid 2 years, I just had, wherever I was living, I would just plaster different affirmations and make them beautiful on the wall. And I started to think, I'm probably not the only person that struggles with their thought patterning. And these affirmations could be helpful for other people. But then, of course, as I've studied the mind, I realized the mind easily gets bored, and the affirmation looks great for a while, but if you just have it there, within 5 days, a week, it no longer has an impact, right? The mind has accustomed itself to it. It's become part of the norm and it's no longer impactful. So I realized I needed to bring that element of awe, an element of the unknown, sort of what I would call fractals or chaos. And that's where I started to think about, doing a drawing. What's a different way of saying that? Not a drawing, doing a card layout, sort of like tarot cards, where you could choose how the different designs that cards were going to appear. Say you just wanted one card or you wanted 5 cards and in different formations, so that you were still receiving affirmations, but they were coming in different ways, in different combinations, in different forms, anyway, to continue to inspire the mind to stay engaged, keeping the mind engaged. But so closely entwined with the mind, obviously, is the heart. So bringing the meaning and the awe. So Lucidus was formed as a deep desire to share my journey of mental health with others. Specifically, just that space where you feel so alone in your own struggle. And that place is so hard to navigate, and it wears you down, just wears you down. And so I thought, I don't just want to share that I have, that I work very hard for my mental health. I also want to share that I believe there's a way to address this where we're not so isolated in it. I don't know how yet. Part of that was the app was not only, hey, let's work on our mental illness, but not just you sitting in your space alone working on your mental health. Did you notice how I use the word mental illness? I'm trying really hard to see it as coming to a place of mental wellness, mental health. Anyway, and so I wanted the app also to have a place where people could talk about, like, hey, I'm working on this part of my mental health, my mental wellness, my mental conditioning. So it's not such an isolated thing. And okay, fast forward to this morning, and very much feeling a lot of those old cyclical patterns of thought coming up where nothing I'm doing is working. All that I've, tried to put into this business, has no value, it has no benefit, it's not going to ever work. It's, just all the doubt and the negativity that can just drown me. So when I'm listening to Wayne Dyer and he's talking about being in service to something greater than you, Lucidus was literally born for that reason, to be in service of my soul is what I call it. And, they say your wound or your struggles are the place where you have the most to give. So I thought, well, one of my biggest struggles, my deepest wounds, has been in my mind. I have this incredibly brilliant mind, one of the smartest people I know, and just so acutely aware and attuned. But I also have a mind that can take me down, literally. So I thought, well, that must be, the place where I can be in service, not only to helping myself, but to others. So as Wayne Dyer was talking about the importance of that, I became very frustrated. And I thought, like, I literally created this business to do that. And I think, and I thought I had been doing that. But I can't see any progress in myself. I can't see any progress in the business. I can't see the value. I can't see any next steps. I think I've said so this is only my third video podcast, and my first one was just about a week ago. And I said in that one, like, I don't really know why I'm doing video podcasts. It's not a comfortable place for me. I really liked just having the audio. I felt like I could hide. Felt much safer that way. So again, so as I was sitting there, I'm trying to I have no idea what I'm saying. If you're bored, turn it off, go find something else. I don't know what to say. Um, so as I was listening and he was talking about being in service, and I thought, well, what, how truly am I best in service? And I've always kind of had this relationship with soul. That's what I will call it. You could call it anything you want. Don't really even know what it is. And I've always thought I'm best when I don't know. When I don't know what I'm doing, when I don't know what I'm saying, um, when I just allow it to happen. So I asked myself, well, have you been doing that? And I thought, no, it's been more scripted. It's been more me trying to show you my best, even though I've shared a lot of really hard, painful things. I was trying to show you it in the best possible light. I want to be seen in the best possible light. So this is not how I want to be seen, not the best possible light. Although I am sitting in front of a beautiful window on purpose, so I can just look out the window at these beautiful maple. So the other thing I've been thinking a lot about is I've recently come across some podcasts and just different areas of life where someone very successful has stepped away from what they were doing because they were no longer able to do it. And as they spoke about it, and I looked into a little bit of their history, I realized, and some of them were very honest about it, and they just flat out said, you know, the thing that drove them to success was ultimately the thing that took them down. And I wish I could remember how one of them said it. It was so brilliant, but basically saying like, what you think is your superpower is actually probably your biggest wound and demise. I can't quite, anyway. So what they were all saying was the thing that pushed them so hard and quote unquote made them so brilliant and got them to be successful was the thing that took them down, was the reason they had to walk away, was the reason they had to stop, was the reason they couldn't do what they were doing. Because they'd gotten there sort of on a falsity, if that makes sense. They hadn't gotten there from a place of true authenticity, although they've been very authentic. I mean, they were amazing people. I have a lot of respect for them. But it was like, you can't. Well, and here's the interesting thing, lucid, like the big part of lucid is lucid, to shine light on something, to bring lucidity to something. It literally means crystal clear and bright. You know, my whole part of that word and that meaning for me, this is so important, is to shine light into the dark places, to shine light onto things that we don't want to see, we don't like to look at, we don't want to admit, we don't want to deal with. And so that's probably what I'm doing right now, is shining light on that part of me that I don't want to see, don't want to admit, have fought for, I wouldn't say my whole life, maybe my whole life, but have fought very hard for 10, 15 years, probably longer than that, but a dedicated fight. Let's say a dedicated fight for 15 years against this part of myself. And hasn't worked. And here's the interesting thing. It really came to light this last weekend. Meaning I look back and I'm like, I would tell myself, oh, you're making strides, you're getting better, like da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like it's working, all the things you're doing, da-da-da-da-da-da. And yes, that is true. I'm a very, very different person than I was 15 years ago. I've grown in so many ways. I'm so much stronger inside. Like, yes. And haven't changed at all. And this is how I sort of know. I'm a big journaler. I just write a lot. Just for myself about what's going on. And recently, because of my trial for the rape, I had the pictures. The man that raped me was, acquaintance. And the dance club we were at that night, there were pictures of us that were taken of the two of us together. Somehow it was like one of those like club, felt like somebody from the club was taking photos, and then they, say, hey, if you want pictures of you, go to my website. So the man who raped me must have gone to the website, got pictures that were taken of us, and then he emailed them to me a few days after the rape. And I remember when I got them, I was just horrified. Two reasons. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I now have pictures of that night at the club beforehand. But two, the arrogance of this man to think that he could send me pictures of us. And it, nothing would happen. And I mean, in a way, he was right. I didn't do anything for many, many years. I didn't dare. So part of it was, something in me saved the pictures. I never looked at them again. I just saved them on my hard drive from the email. And then many years later, when I reported it, I told the police I have pictures of us at the club that night that he emailed me. So now the defense has come and they said, we want your computer. And for whatever damn reason, I still have that old computer. It's been sitting in storage all these years, which is good because it had the pictures. So I could say, yeah, this was the exact night. Here are the pictures of us at the club beforehand. And so I go to get the computer so I can give it to the police. And this was on Friday and it's Monday. So just a few days ago. And I decided to look. I'm like, I just don't even really know what's on this computer. I don't even want to hand it over to the police. And I see that there are all these journal entries. And I'm like, oh my God. Now, it's a desktop Mac, and I don't have it's old. So I try to hook a USB keyboard to it, won't hook to it. Like I can't really do anything on this computer because it's so old. I can't even get anything to interface with it. I could get a USB mouse to interface with it. So I was able to drag the journal files onto a flash drive. And then I put the flash drive onto my current computer and opened up my journals. And it's about, 8 to 10 year span of my journals. And I start to read them. And definitely saw parts of myself. Again, like I said, I'm not the same woman. I saw parts of myself. I was like, oh my God, it's so not me today. I wouldn't behave like that. I don't think like that. I wouldn't act like that. It was very, very traumatic. And anyway, whatever. But then there were other parts of me where I was like, I'm still saying those exact same words. Like I'm still there, like this wound that I said, I've been fighting myself for like 10, 15 years, this hard fight. And there's a wound that's still there, like as fresh it was 10, 15 years ago. And that was disheartening to read my journals and be like, I could write that today. I could write those same goddamn words today. And so it was like, well, what am I doing? Like, why is this wound still so fresh after so many years? And so I've spent the weekend just kind of being with the woman I was and parts of her that have died, and the woman that I was, parts of her still alive, and the woman that I am. And I think today is sort of a day of just reckoning and saying, like, there are parts of me that haven't gone away. Like, that's a big thing to admit. It's hard for me to admit that after all the work I've done, they're still there. but also sort of a reckoning that I might always struggle with some of these things. And I know that's not like popular, like you're not supposed to say that. Um, but I'm done fighting and just allowing. Um, I may not ever figure out some of this stuff. And I think I sort of had this fantasy that I was, when I met my next partner, um, that I was somehow going to go into it like really awesome. And I think there'll be more broken parts of me than I wish. Um, Hold on just one moment, please. I just had to get some tissue. I wasn't planning on crying, which I don't know why. I'm a pretty big crier. So, anyway, so this day of reckoning today is just kind of um, I guess the words that come are they are truly in service. Um, those of you who are just on audio, you'll just have to be with the quiet for a moment. I would say it's hard for me to imagine how me, like coming from this place of such brokenness, could be in service. I wanted to, and still do, want to share from a place of strength and beauty and joy, all the things. I very much feel like I'm trying to understand Lucidess. One, at this point, I'm just like questioning, is it done? Is it? And I've kind of been waiting to get like that, the impulse, like, okay, done, shut it down. You did what it did. It's done, like moving on. That hasn't been coming. I think it would actually be a relief if it did. And I could just be like, okay, fine, stupid thing, move on. And I'm kind of waiting for that in a few different aspects of my life. Like things are like really hard right now and nothing's really working, but nothing's really failing either. And so I feel stuck, just like stuck. I'm like, it's not working, but it's not failing, and I'm not getting any messages. So just I don't know. I don't know. And like I said, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know why to share this. Right now, I'm wondering if I'll even put it up. I don't see the value in it. I don't see how it's beneficial. I would say it also feels very selfish and self-serving right now, even though I was trying to just listen and let the life just flow through me. Um, there's also part of me that was doing it just to move, just to try to get whatever's stuck to move so I can move from this place, energetically, physically, mentally, emotionally. There have been so many times where I was in a place of just such deep struggle. And so many times I just said, I don't want anyone else to experience this, one, but if they do, I don't want them to feel alone. I want them to know they're not alone. So I think that's all I have to say today is, if you are there, I'm there. I'm there. I wish I wasn't. I wish you weren't. I wish I had answers for me, for you. But in the meantime, I would say just hold out your hand and note that I'm reaching out mine, and holding yours. It's a small gesture, but it's as true as I can be right now. And maybe I'll share. So I'm going to make an affirmation for myself today. I'm living in my new home, which has brought up a lot of hard things. And I've recently decided the first affirmation I'm going to put on my wall. And it's one by Shakespeare. So I'll share it with you. And I'm sharing it because maybe, well, I'm just going to show you. I hope you can see this. I'm about to do something I've never done. I'm going to show you my big array of all my, I've been working on this other children's book that I'm going to share with you guys shortly, but here's my table with all my pencils and markers and paper. And I have no idea what that's like on your end. Maybe I just made you sick to your stomach swirling that around, but I'm going to make my first affirmation. And I just scribbled this the other day. For those of you who can see the video, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So I heard that, and I have so many judgments about myself, and I've decided, and other people, I'm working very hard not to judge myself good or bad, not to judge a situation good or bad, not to judge my choices good or bad, not to judge other people's behaviors and choices good or bad. It's not healthy for me. It just isn't healthy for me. And I wouldn't say it's a Pollyanna approach. It's more about just stepping back and watching a little bit more of life instead of labeling and judging it. And I tend to be more at peace with myself and with others when I do that. I also tend to be more compassionate with myself and with others when I do that. I also tend to see more clearly when I do that, as strange as it seems. I tend to be able to see in a very clear, lucid way. Oh, this is how this person behaves. They probably have a good reason why they've learned to behave that way. I will remember this is how they behave and hold all of us just as is. So it isn't about turning a blind eye at all, very much about seeing it clearly, letting it be what it is, and understanding that we all have behaviors. That God is here, for good or bad. I very much just want to jump off this call. I want to say a call, but I guess it's a call. It's a podcast, but it's a call. It's me calling out to you, to the universe, to whoever might be on the receiving end of this. I would like to say receiving end, but I feel like I'm on the receiving end of you as well. So this reciprocity that's happening between us, I very much believe in a time and space where we're always meeting. So you listening to this, the date stamp on it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you and I are reciprocating with each other in a very real, energetic way, in a very real, spiritual way. I have this incredible impulse to and I can tell it's the Shelley impulse. Shelley very much wants to say something beautiful to end this. But I promised myself just to sit and sort of let Shelley sleep. And allow myself to be in service of something I don't understand, I don't always appreciate, I don't always trust. I suppose the thing that brings me back is that when I do allow sort of this unknowing to guide my life, that there is more peace within me. Not bliss, not utter peace. I don't want to, it's nothing so grand as that, but sort of this, okay, I've done what I'm being asked to do. That sense and that peace doesn't fix all my problems. I would say it allows me the room to breathe. And I'm just taking a moment to think, only because I have this huge impulse to jump off the call to finish this. And it's so strong that I question it, meaning I often want to get away from the discomfort of life. I seek and thrive on intimacy and connection, and at the same time, I push it away. I run away. I disconnect. And that would be one of the things has gotten worse in the last 10 or 15 years, strangely. I was much more connected and intimate and trusting in my relationships 15 years ago. I very much am disconnected in almost all of my relationships right now. And that's been hard for me to reconcile, reckon. And the interesting thing is, some part of me will not go there, will not connect, just as no. I don't understand. I don't know if I will share this. It's such an intimate look at a process that I don't understand. It's a process that at times has been so phenomenal and magical that I trust it ultimately. At times this process is so painful. So illogical that I don't trust it at all. One of the things that Wayne Dyer kept saying in his talk, and I might not get this right, but I'm pretty sure he was referencing the Tao Te Ching, that old book, supposedly written by Lao Tzu, which means old man. And he said the whole thing is just filled with contradictions. You know. And I would say so much of my journey is filled with contradictions where I move in such a way that it looks like it should go badly, and then a miracle happens. Or I do something where I think it should go so well, and it blows up in my face. I think that's why I'm in my highest service when I don't know. Because when I don't know, that's probably when the greatest knowing is able to come through. And when I feel like I can't be of any service, that's probably when I'm at my greatest service. I'm not going to offer a beautiful farewell today, because that's what I always do. bid you farewell.